Budapest is one of the great cities of Europe, and in my opinion, one of the most underrated. And in today's video, I'm going to be giving you a guide of how best to see the city, tips and tricks of how you can save money, and how you can plan your perfect trip to Budapest. The first thing we need to establish is where to stay. Budapest is actually split into two different cities, one called Buda and one called Pest. And the area that you should aim to stay in is the Pest side, because this is where most of the tourist sites are, a lot of the bars and a lot of the restaurants. For me, the best place to stay in this side of the city is the Jewish quarter, because in the Jewish quarter, you'll find the best value for money of places to stay in, and all the bars and restaurants are right on your doorstep. And it's only a short walk to the river, so you can see most of the city from this location. You can stay near the river on either side, but this is where you'll find that the accommodation prices will become more expensive. And if you're looking to save money on your accommodation, I highly recommend that you book through Airbnb. Now, if you watch quite a lot of my videos, you'll notice that I always recommend Airbnb, but that's because Airbnb generally always gives you the best value for money, particularly in Budapest, because the apartments are crazy cheap. And I'm talking entire apartments, not just a room within an apartment, an entire one. So, I mean, look at some of these prices here. I can't believe how cheap they are, and I was stunned when I started to look. So if you follow this advice, I guarantee you'll find some dirt cheap apartments that are in a great location. But once you figured this out, the next question you've got to ask is, what is there to do in Budapest? I'm so happy to say that there is so much to do in this city, and because of this, I would probably recommend staying about 3 to 4 days in the city. And even then, you probably won't get round to seeing everything that you wanted. On your first full day in Budapest, the first thing that I would recommend that you see is FISHERMAN'S Bastion and Buda Castle. And if you're coming from the Pest side of the city, like I recommended, what I would suggest is take a leisurely walk through the Pest side of the riverbank, cross over the famous Sycheni chain bridge, hopefully I've pronounced that right, and actually go to the castle via the Buda Castle funicular. This funicular, which first opened in 1870, is the second oldest of its kind in the world. And yes, you can get a cab up to the top of the castle, but I think this is a great way to take in the history of where you are. And once you get to the top, there's a number of different things you can do. In Buda Castle itself, there is a number of museums that you can go and look at, and you can spend hours just walking from Buda Castle all the way to FISHERMAN'S Bastion itself. And FISHERMAN'S Bastion offers great panoramic views of the Pest side of the city, particularly of the parliamentary building. And in FISHERMAN'S Bastion itself, there's a really gorgeous church which has these incredible murals painted on the wall, and it's a beautiful sight to see, and so I'd highly recommend that you take the time to visit this. Now, if you're one that want to take in the culture of the place that you visit, I would highly recommend that you visit St. Stephen's Basilica. This basilica is one of the most important religious buildings in Hungary, and in here you can actually see the hand of King Stephen, who I believe was the first king of Hungary. And for me, I think it's really cool to see some of the artifacts that are very important to the people of the country that you visit, and this is just one of many. And also, I've been caught out by this myself in so many different places because it is a religious place. If you do go there on a hot day, remember you are asked to cover your shoulders and your knees. You can't just go there in a vest top and short shorts. You will be refused entry, and it'll be a shame if you couldn't see the basilica because of that. So I would just pre-plan, if you want to visit that, just some kind of jacket or some loose fitting trousers if it is a really hot day, to make sure you can access the basilica. And you can also climb to the top of the dome in the basilica, which gives you great views of the city. Now, first of all, before I start talking about this, I apologise if I'm pronouncing some of these places wrong. My Hungarian obviously isn't very good. So here we go. So a visit to the Sycheni Baths is an absolute must if you're going to Budapest. Budapest has a number of thermal baths around the city, and this is just one of them. The waters are rich in sulfates, calcium, magnesium, and bicarbonate and fluoride, which is believed to help with joint pain or any other illnesses. So So people of Budapest actually do go to these places quite a lot. So if you are feeling like you need to relax for a little bit, it's actually good for you to sit in these thermal baths. So it's always great to plan to see these thermal baths at the end of a long day of sightseeing. So if you spent all day going around Buda Castle and Fisherman's Bastion, go into any thermal bath. Sycheni is one that I will highly recommend. Is a great way to settle down and chill out for the rest of the day before you go out in the evening. There are actually a variety of different thermal pools on site with saunas and steam rooms. The 2 outdoor pools are fantastic places to visit on a cold, dark, wintry day. I went there when it was warm, so I didn't really get that feel, but I've seen so many people that go there in the winter and the steam coming off it looks incredible. So don't be put off going to these thermal baths if you've gone in winter. Thermal bath itself isn't really in an easy location to access, so I'd highly recommend that you get a cab to the baths from wherever you are in the city, and the best app you can use in Budapest is Bolt. This works exactly the same as Uber, but Bolt is the one that is used predominantly within Budapest. So make sure you download this before your trip so you're able to access as many cabs around the city as possible. And the baths themselves cost around £17 for an all-day ticket, but this £17 actually gets you a cabin where you're able to get dressed and hang up all your clothes. You can pay about £15 or £14, but that just gives you a locker. So for when I went, I just paid a little bit extra, got the cabin, and it was a far better way to leave all my clothes and things are safe. Don't worry about leaving valuables in there as much, because they are quite secure cabins. And also, while you're going to the baths, it's worth actually visiting Heroes Square. It's right next to the baths and basically has a homage of a number of different predominant figures in Hungary's history. And because it's so near the baths, it's quite cool places to see. So I would always recommend going this if you do decide to go to Sycheni Thermal Baths. And as I said, there are a number of different baths that you can go to, and the alternative one that I recommend to you is the GELLERT Thermal Baths. Now these can be found on the Buda side of the city, so if you are generally exploring that side of the city, it might be worthwhile visiting this bath instead of the Sycheni ones, because the Sycheni one is on the Pest side and it's quite a way into the Pest side as well. And this bath isn't as well known, but it's definitely worth a visit. I actually went to both, and I actually preferred how it looked inside. It was wonderfully restored and looked like it had been untouched since it opened in the early 20th century. Much like Sycheni spa baths, the spa includes an open air pool, but this one actually turns into a wave pool in the summer, a Finnish sauna. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's where you go into a sauna, you sit in there for a period of time, and then you get straight into cold water. And it's a tiny bit cheaper, where you can get a cabin for £15, so it's pretty negligible. But to be honest, you could go to them every evening if you want to. After a long day of sightseeing, go to a thermal bath and chill out. It's the best way to end the day, and I wish that more cities had this. So Budapest is incredible for these numerous thermal baths. So even if you decide not to stay in the Jewish quarter, I highly recommend that you go and see the ruin bars which are in the Jewish quarter. It's a series of bars within an open courtyard which is stuffed full of electrical equipment, art all over the wall, and some communist memorabilia to boot. And the drinks in Budapest, as they are everywhere, and particularly in the ruin bars, are super cheap. But because some of the bar is in an open courtyard, make sure that you look at the weather, because the last thing you want to do is be caught out in the rain with a drink in the open courtyard. And if you're brave enough, ask for a shot of, and I'm not making this up, a spirit called Unicum. It's a local drink, and it's quite strong. So if you want to have a bit of laugh, get a shot of Unicum. There you are, see, just saying it, shot of Unicum is funny enough for me. And after visiting some of the Buda side of the city, you might want to see some of the Pest side. And one of the things that I would highly recommend is that you visit the parliamentary building. There is actually a number of tours you can take. But if this is something you want to see, please book tickets in advance. I unfortunately couldn't actually go in to the parliamentary building because when I tried to buy tickets on the day, there was only French and Spanish tours left. Because you are led through by a tour guide, you have to take certain tours based on certain languages, and all of the English tours had sold out. Now, although they do cover a number of different languages, unfortunately with English being kind of a second language for a lot of people where the languages aren't covered will book on the English tours, and that's why they go so quickly. So if you do want to go, I highly recommend you either book tickets the day before or in advance online. And then right outside of the parliamentary building, you'll see a monument which is called the Shoes on the Danube, which commemorates the slaying of 3,500 civilians, including 800 Jews in the Second World War. And on this spot was where they were unfortunately executed by fascists into the Danube River, and before they did, they were asked to take off their shoes, and so this monument marks what the scene was like after the massacre had taken place. It is somewhere quite moving to go and visit, so if you do visit this monument, please visit it with the utmost respect. Now, another thing that I can highly recommend is taking a riverboat trip on the Danube. There's a number of different variety trips you can do, ones that you're on it for quite a few hours where you're served drinks and a meal. I opted just to do the simple 1 hour trip on the river, which cost around £8 or £9. And it's quite nice to see all the different sites with the river on each side. I recommend doing this maybe in the evening as the sun sets, because you get a lovely view of the city. I don't feel like you need to book anything in advance. I didn't actually know you could do this. I just turned up on the day, we had a look at it, we felt it was a nice day and we wanted to do it. So if this is something you want to do or you're unsure about, don't worry about having to book anything in advance. You can turn up on the day and just book it on the riverbank. The best way to see a city, as some people say, is to eat your way through it. Now I'm going to recommend some of the best eating spots that I found whilst I was in Budapest. And the first place that I'm going to highly recommend is the Central Market Hall. Now this is simply just a big hall where a lot of the locals will shop for their groceries or anything like that, but there's a number of great restaurants, and if you want to try some authentic Hungarian food, this is a great place to start. It's a great place to grab some lunch, and even if you don't want to eat, it's just great. It's an incredible looking building, so it's a nice place to go and see. Now the next place, if you want to get some fancy breakfast or you just want to see the incredible building itself, I would highly recommend that you visit the New York Cafe. Now it sounds like a horrific, tacky New York-ish restaurant which is trying to be like too American, but it's not. It's actually in a very classy hotel, and the inside of this cafe is absolutely beautiful. You don't have to book in advance, you can walk in, but sometimes depending on how busy they are, you may have to queue a bit. I wouldn't personally recommend getting the food. It's quite expensive and it isn't actually that nice. But I will highly recommend the cakes and their hot chocolate. The hot chocolate particularly is incredible. And to be honest, even if you're not hungry, it's worth just walking in just to see the building. We've seen quite a lot of people just going in and just taking pictures while they're there because it is that beautiful. Now there's a number of great places you can eat in the Jewish quarter, but one spot in particularly is worth a visit if you want variety. In the KARAVAN street food, it's a number of food vendors right next to the ruin bars where there's some great food on offer. You've got some traditional Hungarian food, Chinese food, some burgers, some fajitas, and there's a lot of drinks. It's a great place to go, especially in a great summer's evening. And also it's worth saying that they do quite a lot of vegan options as well, so if you are vegan, this is a great place for you to go. Budapest actually as a city is really good for vegans, and I'm actually going to get into some other great vegan places to go. I'm not actually vegan, but my girlfriend is, but even not being vegan, some of these places are actually worth visiting because the food is that good. Moving on from that, there's actually a great vegan-only restaurant. Now, it's quite a complex name restaurant, so I'm just going to list it here. I don't want to offend any Hungarians that may watch this and try and pronounce it, but it's just here on Google Maps, and it's a vegan-only restaurant and offers a number of great pizzas and various different food that you can eat, and I'd highly recommend going there. If you're non-vegan as well, don't worry, the food is actually really good and quite high quality, so it's a great night out for anyone. And also, just keep going on this vegan trend, just keep with me. There is a place called Gelato Rosa. Now these do vegan only gelato, and I'm going to be honest, some of the best gelato I've had was actually at this place. And even if you went and got some, you wouldn't even know that it is vegan. It's that good. And the way they present it to you when you pick any different flavors, they either make your cone look like a rose. It looks really cool. It's a great little Instagram if you wanted to do it, and it tastes great, and it's quite inexpensive as well. So I'd highly recommend that you visit Gelato Rosa if you want some great gelato. And if you're vegan, guess what? You're covered. You got some great gelato you can enjoy while you're in Budapest. And if you want to keep on with the Hungarian trend, what you'll see is that they offer something called chimney cakes, and the ones I'm told do the best ones in the city is a place called Molars. I think I pronounced that right. This is just it. I'm gonna just there. Did I do well? I don't know. But they make chimney cakes from fresh, and they've got a little window where you can actually see them making them for you as well. I went for one, the whole one, and to be honest, it's only good for a half because they are quite sweet, so that would be my recommendation. And then if you're looking for food around Buda Castle, what you'll find is there is quite a lot of commercial places. There's a lot of like Jamie's Italian, and a lot of generic restaurants. To be honest, when I'm away, I want to try and avoid these chain restaurants because I'm away, I want to try something new. And just a short walk from Buda Castle is a place, and I'm going to try and pronounce this right, is the Sycheni Health Food. Now, it's really good, high quality stuff, and it's so cheap, and it has a cute little dog that wanders around the place as well. I think I got a meal there, a bit of lunch for £3. So you're looking to save money and get a great lunch when you're around Buda Castle, FISHERMAN'S Bastion. This is a place that I would highly recommend you visit. And now you can tell that I went to quite a lot of food places while I was in Budapest, but the last one I'm going to recommend to you, which is a great breakfast place, is called Vintage Garden. Now, if you're someone who likes the gram and you likes to take pictures, this is the perfect breakfast place for you. It's situated in the Jewish quarter, and the food it actually does is really, really nice. And all these restaurants that I have mentioned are in the links below, so you can find them there if you haven't been able to follow my Google Maps view as I've been talking in this video. Now, one of the other points that I'm going to help you to book your perfect trip is knowing how you can get from the airport to the city centre. And so the bus that you're looking for when you leave the airport is a bus that is numbered 100E, and this departs the airport every 30 minutes. You're always going to have a method of transport to get into the city, and it only takes around 35 minutes on the bus. Now, obviously you can get an Uber or a cab when you're there, but again, if you're looking to save the money, getting the bus is the best thing to do because it's really cheap. It costs you about €3 just to get to the city centre, and for me, even if I have the money to pay for a cab, €3 is absolutely nothing, so I'm always going to choose the bus. And these can be purchased in the airport itself, customer service desks and ticket offices, or different news agents within the city centre itself. And in the airport, it's always worth just getting the return so you don't have to worry about doing it when you're trying to come back to the airport. And I think it has about 3 stops around the city. Generally, they'll all stop on the Pest side, which again is why I've always suggested that you stay in the Pest side so you don't have to walk all the way to the Buda side. But if you book any accommodation, the 3 stops should generally cover you. If you're staying in the Jewish quarter, the stop that you want to get at is just written down right here. Now, again, I'm not gonna try and pronounce it because I'll probably embarrass myself, but this is the stop you want. I'm gonna list all the different stops that you get on this bus in the description below, so please refer to that if you want to know more, or please just ask me any further questions in the comments and I'll try my best to help you. And the best thing about going to see Budapest is the price. It's so cheap, especially if you follow the steps that I've given you. If you want to have a long weekend getaway, I'm pretty sure you can get it for under £150 for a long weekend, including flights. So if you're looking for a cheap getaway, Budapest is definitely the place to go, and you'll definitely be able to achieve that price if you stay in the areas that I suggested. And if to get the cheapest flights possible, I have made a video about how you can find cheap flights. I'm going to link it just above me right now, and please refer to that if you want to look out to get cheap flights. And Budapest overall is one of the cheapest cities you can fly to, which makes it a great getaway. If you haven't got a lot of money and want a nice cheap getaway, Budapest is the best place. I'm hoping that this video has helped you plan your perfect trip, or if you were just thinking of what kind of cities should I visit and you clicked on this video, I hope that I convinced you to take a trip to Budapest. It's a wonderful city. I didn't even get to see all the things I wanted to see, so I'm definitely going back. If you have any further questions about the things I've mentioned, again, please let them know in the comments. I want to make sure this channel is a nice resource for everyone to plan their perfect trips, wherever that may be. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, because it really helps me out. If you've enjoyed it, please leave a comment. Tell me how much you've liked the video, or there's things that you feel I need to discuss more in my videos. Please, again, let me know. I want to make sure that I make the best videos and most helpful videos for you. Until then, I will catch you on the next video. See you later.